Let us go for the next one, the process of digestion. Right. Process of digestion. Digestion is of two types. One is the mechanical digestion and second one is the chemical digestion. So what is mechanical digestion? Digestion without action of enzymes. So digestion without action of enzymes is called as mechanical digestion. So mechanical digestion includes what? It includes the mastication, that is the chewing of food. Churning movements. Churning movements means breakdown of large food materials into smaller particles in the stomach and small intestine. Peristalsis, wave-like movements which pushes the food particles from towards the posterior side. Okay. Then chemical digestion. Chemical digestion occurs by the action of enzymes. Okay. Where the chemical digestion occurs. Let us see the sites of digestion. The digestion occurs in the buccal cavity, stomach and small intestine. So the digestion occurs in the buccal cavity, stomach and small intestine. Let us see the first one, digestion in the buccal cavity. So buccal cavity performs two major functions. One is the mastication of food materials and second one is deglutination. Deglutination is otherwise called as swallowing. Right? How the mastication occurs? So in the buccal cavity, mastication of food materials occurs with the help of teeth and tongue. Okay, the teeth and tongue with the help of saliva masticate the food and mix the food. Okay, masticate the food and mix the food materials. So what is the function of saliva? Saliva helps in lubricating. So which part it is lubricating, ma? It is lubricating the buccal cavity or oral cavity. And also saliva helps in adhering. Adhering means attaching the food particles, because in the saliva there is a substance called as mucin. Okay, this mucin helps the food particles to attach with each other and forms into a ball-like structure called as food bolus. It forms into a ball-like structure called as food bolus. Okay, now we see the saliva also contains electrolytes. So what are those electrolytes? Sodium, potassium, chloride ions, bicarbonate ions, and also it consists of enzymes. Enzymes present in saliva: salivary amylase and lysozyme. Okay, salivary amylase and lysozyme. This is important point. The act of chemical digestion is initiated in the buccal cavity. So remember this one. The act of chemical digestion is initiated where? Initiated in the buccal cavity. How? Carbohydrate in the presence of salivary amylase, it is converted into dextrin, dextrin into maltose. So how much percentage of carbohydrates are digested means about 30% of carbohydrates are digested in the buccal cavity. Okay. Then what about the lysozyme? Lysozyme of saliva is antibacterial. That means it kills the microorganisms and prevents the infections So in buccal cavity only the carbohydrates are digested. The proteins and fats are not at all digested in the buccal cavity. So very important to remember that. Right. Now the food bolus is swallowed. That means the food bolus enters into the pharynx, and swallowing is a voluntary process because in the pharynx there are skeletal muscles. With the help of skeletal muscles, the food bolus is swallowed and reaches to the stomach. Now let us see the digestion in the stomach. So what about the stomach? You know that stomach is a storage organ and it acts as the reservoir of food. That means in the stomach the food is stored for 4 to 5 hours. Okay, the food is stored for 4 to 5 hours. In the stomach, churning movements occurs. Okay, in the stomach, churning movements occurs. Due to the churning movements, the food is thoroughly mixed with gastric juice. Okay, the food is thoroughly mixed with what? Gastric juice. You know that the gastric juice is chemically acidic because it consists of pH of 0.9 to 1.8. Why the stomach maintains acidic pH means The pepsin can act only in the acidic medium. In the alkaline medium, the pepsin is inactive. Remember that one. Due to that, the stomach is always maintaining acidic medium. Then if you see the gastric juice composition, the gastric juice consists of HCl, pepsinogen, prorenin, bicarbonate, mucus, gastric lipase, and Cassell's intrinsic factor. So these are the enzymes present in the gastric juice. Right. Then what about the function of this mucus and bicarbonate? Mucus and bicarbonate protects the wall of stomach from excoriation caused by HCl and enzymes. What is meant by excoriation? Excoriation means damage to the mucous membrane of the stomach. That means due to the HCl and enzymes, the mucus layer of the stomach may get damaged. If the mucus layer of the stomach, if the mucus layer of the stomach gets damaged, then definitely due to the action of this HCl and enzymes, we feel burning sensation, and also it leads to the ulcers. So to prevent that, the mucus and bicarbonates are preventing the excoriation. Then what about the HCl? HCl kills bacteria. Remember that. So if the microorganisms escapes from the buccal cavity and reaches to the stomach, in the stomach the HCl is killing the bacteria. And HCl also stops the activity of salivary amylase. Remember, this is very important point. So the digestion of carbohydrates in the buccal cavity is prevented in the stomach due to what? Or the action of salivary amylase is stopped in the stomach. Why? Because of the HCl. So when HCl is released, the salivary amylase becomes inactive and the carbohydrate digestions are stopped. So very important point, that one also. And also it keeps the food in acidic medium. So this is also very, very important. And it activates pepsinogen. It activates pepsinogen and also prorenin. If you see the pepsinogen is inactive form. In the presence of HCl, it becomes pepsin. Pepsin is the active form. So pepsinogen, again in the presence of pepsin, it is converted into pepsin due to autocatalysis. Due to autocatalysis. Very important. Right. Let us go about the renin also. Right. So pepsin. What is the function of pepsin means? Pepsin hydrolyze the proteins into proteases and peptones. That means the pepsin is digesting the proteins into proteases and peptones. Now let us go for the next one, renin. Renin is present. See the renin here, R-E-N-N-I-N. You have to remember this double N because there is one more renin. This renin comes in the excretory system, in the RAS mechanism. Okay, the JG cells secretes renin. So this renin is different and this renin is different. See the spelling while when we give in the objectives. So to confusion, we may give this one first and after this one. Okay, you have to remember this point, very, very important. So where this renin is present only in infants. So generally if we see the prorenin in the presence of HCl, it is activated into renin. What is the function of renin? Renin is a proteolytic enzyme. That means protein lytic breaking. Right? What the renin will break? Generally in infants depends upon the milk. Okay. So in the beginning, the digestive system of infants is poorly developed and it is without any sphincters. So in the infants drinks the milk directly enters from stomach and stomach into the intestine because of the poor development of the sphincter muscles. So to prevent that, the renin converts the milk protein casein in the presence of calcium into calcium paracaseinate. So it is also called as curdling of milk. That means the milk is converted into the curd. So the calcium paracaseinate in the presence of pepsin, it is hydrolyzed into proteases. Peptones and proteases are partially digested proteins. Remember that. So peptones and proteases are not completely digested proteins. They are partially digested proteins. Very important point. These proteases and peptones are completely digested by the action of the trypsin and chymotrypsin only, not by pepsin. Pepsin also digests the proteins partially, not completely. Let us see. Next one. Right. So next one is Cassell's intrinsic factor. This Cassell's intrinsic factor is useful for absorption of vitamin B12. This is also very important from the intestine. So the Cassell's intrinsic factor is useful for the absorption of vitamin B12 from the intestine. Okay. So if you see in the stomach, what are digested in the stomach means the stomach proteins are partially digested. Second one, fats, no digestion. Carbohydrates are also not digested. Okay. Then the partially digested acidic fluid food is called as chyme. This is one of the important word. Okay. The pH of chyme. Yes, this one they be asking you like this. Okay. So this completes about the digestion in the stomach. So we'll continue in the next class about the digestion in the small intestine and also absorption in one class. Okay. Now we'll stop the class. Good morning, dear students. Today we are going to complete the process of digestion remaining part. Okay. Already we have completed the digestion in the buccal cavity, digestion in the stomach. Today we are going to start the digestion in the small intestine. So you all know that small intestine begins with the duodenum, jejunum and ileum. So from the stomach, so if you see so this is the duodenum. Okay, this is the small intestine. Okay, right. So main site of digestion and absorption is the small intestine. Okay, it is the main site of digestion and absorption. And the main site of digestion is duodenum. So very important. So this is one question. The main site of digestion is duodenum. Then the main site of absorption of food is jejunum and ileum. Right? So already we know that in the stomach the food is partially digested. That means in the stomach only proteins are partially digested. So the partially digested acidic fluid food is called as chyme. So you know that it is called as chyme. Now this chyme reaches into the small intestine. In the small intestine, this acidic food get mixed up with the bile juice, pancreatic juice and intestinal juice. Okay. The bile juice is alkaline in nature, pancreatic juice is alkaline in nature and intestinal juice is alkaline in nature. So this acidic chyme is converted into alkaline nature. That means the acidic food is converted into alkaline food. Why? Because the trypsin and chymotrypsin can act only in the alkaline pH, not in the acidic pH. Now let us see what are happening in the duodenum. So action of bile juice. So the bile salts is having the capacity to emulsify the fats. And bile is useful for absorption of fats also. And bile also activates the lipases. So if you see here, this is the large fat droplet. Okay, large fat molecule. So it combines with the bile. So it combines with the bile salts. And the bile salts emulsify this large fat into small fat droplets. Okay, So these are the small fat droplets like this. Right, the small emulsified fat or fat droplets is called as mycelium. We call this one as mycelium. So it is very important. Mycelium plays an important role in the absorption. We'll see that one in the absorption of foods there. Right, so large fat droplets in the presence of bile salts are converted into small fat droplets called as mycelium. So conversion of large fat droplets into small fat droplets is called as emulsification. Right, let us see the next one. Action of pancreatic juice. So in the pancreatic juice, that means the pancreatic juice all consists of trypsinogen, chymotrypsinogen, carboxypeptidases, pancreatic amylase, pancreatic lipase, and nucleases. All right, but trypsinogen is inactive form. Remember that one. So this is an inactive form. Okay, and this is active. Okay, so the enterokinase present in the intestinal juice, that means intestinal juice consists of an enzyme activator. Remember that one. Enterokinin is an enzyme activator. Very important. So what is the enzyme activator in the intestinal juice? Means enterokinin or enterokinase. So this enterokinin present in the intestinal juice activates trypsinogen into trypsins, right? And this trypsin activates the chymotrypsinogen into chymotrypsin and procarboxypeptidase. So procarboxypeptidase into carboxypeptidase. We can see the equations here. Now we see the trypsinogen. This one is the trypsinogen. The presence of enterokinase is activated into trypsin, and similarly chymotrypsinogen. The presence of trypsin, it gets activated into chymotrypsin, and procarboxypeptidase in the presence of trypsin is activated into carboxypeptidase. Right. You'll see the next one. Right. Now, if you see in the pancreatic juice functions, so the proteins, peptones, and proteases in the presence of trypsin, chymotrypsin, and carboxypeptidase, they are converted into dipeptides. Similarly, fats in the presence of lipases, they are converted into diglycerides. Diglycerides in the presence of lipases are converted into monoglycerides. Okay. Similarly, nucleic acids in the presence of nucleases, they are hydrolyzed into nucleotides. Very important. They are hydrolyzed into nucleotides. Now let us go for the next slide. Now let us go for the intestinal juice. Action of intestinal juice. So the intestinal juice is commonly called as succus entericus. Okay, intestinal juice is called as succus entericus. It is secreted by what? It is secreted by the goblet cells of mucosa and brush border cells of mucosa. Right? Goblet cells of mucosa means secretes mucus. Brush border cells of mucosa secretes what? Enzymes. Let us see. Dipeptides in the presence of dipeptidase is converted into amino acids. Okay. Now let us go for the next one, carbohydrates. So if you see the maltose in the presence of maltase is converted into two molecules of glucose. Similarly, lactose in the presence of lactase is converted into glucose and galactose. And sucrose in the presence of sucrase is converted into glucose and fructose. All these three are simple sugars. Okay. Similarly, fats in the presence of intestinal lipase, they are converted into fatty acids and glycerol. Okay, they are converted into fatty acids and glycerol. Then if we see the nucleotides in the presence of nucleotidase is converted into nucleosides. This is also very important. And nucleosides in the presence of nucleosidase is converted into nitrogen base and sugar. nitrogen base and sugar. Then if you see the digestion of proteins, in buccal cavity we cannot see any protein digestion, but in stomach the proteins in the presence of pepsins are converted into proteases and peptones. That means they are partially digested. So in the stomach the proteins are partially digested. Then what happens in the small intestine? In the small intestine, proteins and partially digested proteins like protease and peptones, in the presence of trypsin, chymotrypsin, carboxypeptidase, they are converted into dipeptides. Okay, dipeptides in the presence of dipeptidase are converted into amino acids. So you all know that the end product of protein digestion is amino acids. So this completes about the digestion of the food materials in the buccal cavity, stomach and small intestine. So in the next class, we'll go for the next class. In that next class, we'll go for the absorption. So absorption and disorders. That means in the next video, we'll complete entire digestive system. After that, we'll go for the breathing and exchange of gases. Okay. Before breathing and exchange of gases, I want to complete the genetics part also. So next video onwards, I'll complete, after completion of this topic, I'll go for the genetics part, so that it will be PU syllabus, second PU syllabus will be completed, right? So after completion of this topic, again we'll have complete exam, one more object exam on complete digestion and absorption. Okay, it's okay now. I'll conclude now, right? Thank you very much, ma. We'll see you in the next class.